Slam the door once with your fist and make a big noise. But you keep up a pulsation, because that by its on and offness attracts attention. All life, you see, is this flickering in and out. Only there are enormous rhythms. There are very fast flickering ins and outs, like the reaction of light upon our eyes, such that if I take a lighted cigarette, it's dark, and I spin it, you will see a circle of fire. Because the reflection of that cigarette tip on your retina lasts, it endures. Just in the same way as on a radar screen. An image stays a little while until it's revivified by another round. So in that way, you see, you notice continuity. And in the same way, then, you notice the continuity of a light, because although, like, say, with an arc lamp is actually a flickering light. That's why they don't allow arc lights to be used in any shop where there's a circular saw. Because sometimes the flickering speed of the arc light so synchronizes with the turning speed of the teeth of the blade. The teeth look as if they're not moving. And so anybody who might put his hand on the blade will have it chopped off, thinking it was a stone. So in this way, very fast impulses are looked upon us as constant. And we see where there are fast impulses as solid things. When you look at the blade of a propeller or an electric fan, the separated 4 or 3 blades become a solid disc, and you cannot throw an egg through it. Well, so in exactly the same way, you can't put your finger through a rock, because the rock is moving too fast for your finger. That's the meaning of the whole phenomenon of hardness. Hardness in nature is immense energy, but acting in a very concentrated space, restricted space, going to be hell. That's why you can't get it. Now, from those very tiny fast rhythms, which give us the impression of continuity, there are also these immensely slow rhythms. These are very difficult, these are incredible. And they impress us and depress us as our own life and death. As our coming and going, which goes for what is to us such a slow pace that we can't possibly believe that it is really a rhythm. We think of it as our birth, as something quite unique that could never occur again, because we're so close to it. And so with that point of view, we are like Marshall McLuhan said, just that we are driving a car looking in the rear vision mirror. That means that the environment in which you believe yourself to of passing. This is the one you actually do. The process of growth, the basic process of biology, is one in which lower orders are always being superseded by higher. The lower order can never figure out, or only very rarely figure out, what the higher order is that's taking place. And may see it as a terrible threat, as total disaster, as the very end. But there can never be aware that the principle of growth always has and always will continue. Because that's what's going on. But you never know what the next step is going to be. Because if you did know, you wouldn't take it. Because it would already be past. You understand this? That any certainly known future is an event on which we can say you've had it. And in that sense, it's past. When we play a game, and we say in chess or in a bridge or whatever game you're playing, the outcome of the game becomes certain. We at that point cancel the game. Because the whole zest, which takes me back to the idea that this whole thing is a hide and seek, is that you don't know what the next coming up is. But one thing you can be sure of, it will be an order. At the moment we stand at a time where we're beginning to think of a great countdown on the end of the human race. Terrifying possibility. That's how we get it. We may obliterate this planet and turn the whole globe into a star. Maybe that's the way all the stars started. Imagine this great thing coming up. The countdown at the end. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Bother about that? It's just another fluctuation in this huge, marvelous, endless chain of our own selves and our own energy going on. See, here's the problem. Because of our myopia, because of the way we've, as it were, restricted consciousness to focus upon just that certain little area of experience that we call voluntary action. That's us. and everything else happens. Now that's obviously absurd. Let's suppose you take in your hand one of those toys, a gyroscopic top, and you suddenly notice the minute you get this in your hand that it has a kind of vitality. It seems to resist you. It starts pushing you in a certain way, see? And sometimes you're with it and following it. Then sometimes you see it's just as if you held a living animal. You know, you pick up a hamster, you know, or a guinea pig, and you hold this little thing in your hand. It's always trying to escape. So the gyroscope always seems to be trying to escape your hold. Now, in exactly the same way, what you're experiencing all the time, all sorts of things are getting out of control and doing things you don't expect. It's trying to escape your hold. All right, then don't grab it. And you discover that this living thing that you're feeling, like the gyroscope top, it's your own life. Because you can see very simply that you would not understand the experience that you call voluntary action and decision, being in control and being yourself, unless in opposition to that there was something else. You couldn't realize self and control and will unless there was something other, out of control, and instead of will, won't. It's the two together only that produces the sensation that you call having a personal identity. Only, there is a funny thing about human consciousness which has been worked out very carefully in Gestalt psychology, which is that our attention is captured by the figure rather than the background, by the relatively enclosed area rather than the diffuse area, and by something moving rather than what is relatively still. And to all those phenomena that in this way attract our attention, we attribute a higher degree of reality than the ones we don't notice. That's only because, for the moment, those are more important to us. Consciousness, you see, is a radar that is scanning the environment to look out for trouble, just in the same way as a ship's radar is looking for rocks or other ships. And the radar, therefore, does not notice the vast areas of space where there are no rocks, no other ships. So in the same way, our eyes, or rather the selective consciousness behind the eyes, only pays attention to what we think is important. I am at this moment aware of all of you in this room, of every single detail of your clothing, of your faces, and so on, but I'm not noticing it. And therefore I will not be able to remember tomorrow exactly how each one of you looked and what you were wearing. But quite obviously, you as a complete individual are much more than the scanning system. You are in relationships with the external world that on the whole are incredibly harmonious. And so in this way, we have this rather myopic way of looking at things. And we screen out from attention anything that is not immediately important to a scanning system based on sensing dangers. But quite obviously, you as a complete individual are much more than the scanning system. You are in relationships with the external world that on the whole are incredibly harmonious. Going back to this illustration of every living body as something like the flame of a candle, the energies of life in the form of temperature, light, air, and food, and so on, are streaming through you all at this moment in the most magnificently harmonious way. And you're, all of you, far more beautiful than any candle. Just sitting in these chairs, just going. Only we're so used to it. We say about that, so what? Show me something interesting. Show me something new. Because it's a characteristic of consciousness that it ignores stimuli that are constant. When anything is constant, it says, okay, that's safe, it's in the bag. You needn't pay attention to that anymore. Therefore, we eliminate systematically from our awareness all the gorgeous things that are going on all the time. And instead only become focused on the things, the troublesome things that might happen to upset us. Which is all right, but we make too much of it. And we make so much of it that we identify our very selves, I, ego, with the radar, with the troubleshooter. That's only a tiny fragment of one's total being. So that if you do become aware that you are not simply that scanning mechanism, but you are your complete organism, then very swiftly, in turn, as a consequence of that, you become that your organism is not the way you think about it when you look at it from the standpoint of conscious attention, from the standpoint of the ego. From the standpoint of the ego, your organism is your kind of vehicle, your automobile, in which you go around. But from a physical point of view, your organism is again like the candle flame or the whirlpool. It is something which is a continuous patterning or activity of the whole cosmos. The key idea here is pattern. this way, we are always, as it were, over-emphasizing a certain aspect of our experience. And we say, now, what is important about people? This is the great cradle of the West. Is there unique individuality? And we have been given an immense psychic investment in our own individuality by our upbringing. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? What's your particular destiny? Fine idea. But the thing we don't understand is that it won't work with great without being balanced with its opposite. Just as you can't have the back without the front. So you cannot have the values of a unique personality unless at the same time everybody recognizes that there is another level at which we are not unique at all. That I am you, you are I. That, in other words, the so-called I that we all have. See, every one of you feels that you're the center of the universe. And that everything else is happening around you in a circle. You turn around, and you can see sort of equally far in all directions, especially if you're in a ship in the middle of the ocean. So you're in the middle. And it's true from the standpoint of astronomy. We live in a curved space-time continuum. That is to say, in a universe in which every point may be regarded as the center. Consider a sphere. There's a ball. What point on this ball is the center of its surface? You can see it once at any point. So legitimately, all points in the universe are the center. That's St. Bonaventure's description of God. That circle whose center is everywhere and whose circumference is nowhere. So everybody's in that situation. And at that depth of your existence, we are all like the nerve ends on your own skin. See, at every point on your skin, there's a little nerve end going beep and getting information from the outside world. Another, all over. And they all constitute your total sensitivity. So in the same way, all these people sitting around here, their little eyes, their little ears, and things, they're going beep. And they're all really one common center called I, which is looking at itself from ever so many different points of view. Only we are so close to it, and we are so absorbed in the different ways each one of them is doing that we neglect the community underneath. Just like when you've never seen Chinese people before, and you go to a bunch of Chinese people, you can't tell the difference between them. You think, well, all Chinese look the same. Well, the Chinese, when they first saw us, they thought we all looked the same. We all had red hair and long noses. And then when you get to know, when I lived in Japan for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and suddenly all the Japanese start turning into people. They look like, they don't look Japanese anymore, they just look like people. They're all different. See? As you get to a certain level, then all the individuality comes out. And so, if in other words, someone from an entirely different form of biology came to this planet and looked at us, he wouldn't know the difference between Negroes, the Greeks, Armenians, and white Anglo-Saxon Protestants. They would all look to him exactly the same. And he would see us as, in other words, he'd look at a group like this, and he would call it a thing. Notice you see a set of false teeth. They all are pretty much alike. And you say, well, that's a set of false teeth. So you see a set of people sitting there. And say, well, that's a thing. It's like a caterpillar. There's so many legs on it. It breaks up and reforms and so on. Rather interesting. Like hydras, you know. You could take hydras and put them in an osteroid. work appeared a little while ago in Scientific American, but he has a book of the most fantastic patterns, where you will see, for example, an arrangement of devils. And when you look at the background, it's an arrangement of angels. That everything goes with its counterpoint, so that when you look at one of Escher's pictures, you don't know which is the foreground and which is the background. You just flip, 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 and you can have it either way. Well, everything's like that. Only because, as I said, we are fascinated with what we have at the moment selected as the foreground. We say foreground. It comes before. It's important. That's what's there, the background. Oh, that's just background. Supposing you suddenly do a flip on something, you realize the foreground. Yeah, it's kind of close, but as we say of people, you could only see the trees, you can't see the forest. Like businessmen who say they're very practical, they're very short-sighted, and don't know what's good for them. Put themselves out of their business regularly, so they have to start wars in order to carry on business. And, that's stupid. So you always, wherever you are looking at the general panorama of sensory experiences, try switching. Try shifting your attention to all the things you thought were unimportant, to the constants, to the background, and begin looking at the spaces between these. All painters have to learn this, because especially if you're working in oils, you actually have to paint in the background. Weavers know this, because when they're always something other than you. You don't recognize it as an integral part of your being, without which you cannot know what you mean by that. But the truth of the matter is that if you will face it out, every single one of us knows that isn't true. There is as it were, a recess of the soul, the psyche, where everybody knows perfectly well that you are not just as irresponsible as a mouse that's been chucked out of its work, but that you are really doing this work. You're running. Only you can't admit it just in the same way as you can't admit that you're responsible for the way your own heart beats. You say, oh, that's not my doing. I've no control over my heart. Do you have any control over being conscious? You have conscious. You say, I can take my hand down from my face. I can do that. So what we mean by the capacity of voluntary, in the ordinary sense of the word, we don't understand it at all. So you might say, in a funny backwards way, that the only kind of control you really understand is that way you're not using it. Because you just do it. It's so easy. We don't realize, just as we know we know equally how to turn the sun, how to cool the sky, how to blow the wind, how to wave over the ocean, how to digest food, and I have to be digested by bacteria, and transform as we transform our states, and we will in turn be transformed. Surprise yourselves. You wouldn't go on doing it. It's just the very fact, you see, that you seem to be the victims of a thing you don't understand, that you seem to conclude your life every time in a wipeout called death, where all your control goes. It's just exactly that opposite condition to what you call being alive that allows you to be alive. But every time it happens, it's like it's new. Like every time you're born, it seems like it was the only time. But of course, if it wasn't.